There are Tatkana Rakiim, 955 spiritual gates, or heavens, each adding a new dimension of sensation and conscious awareness and vitality to life. As we grow up and become cynics and sinners, we add layers of filth onto our neshama, and we start to close the gates ourselves, and we become numb in our very souls. This is how Moshe causes us to rise again through the Tatkana Rakiim, unlocking all the gates one by one pasuk at a time. In this week's parasha, at the end, there is the second paragraph of the Shema, V'haya im Shema. Now, there's a Gemara in Brachot 35b that talks about this paragraph in the name of Rabbi Shimon on Ve'asafta deganecha. When Israel performs Hashem's will, their work is performed by others. When Israel does not perform Hashem's will, their work is performed by them themselves, as it is stated, Ve'asafta deganecha, and you shall gather your grain. This is as opposed to Rabbi Ishmael, who holds that we should always set aside time to work for material matters, even when we are on the highest level. Rabbi Shimon, as we know from Yoma 35b, held similar to Abba Hanan, in the name of Rabbi Elazar, that the proper state of the world is that Jewish people and non-Jewish people form a Yisachar Zevulun style relationship. The non-Jews take care of the physical and the material, and we take care of the spiritual. But as we see from this Gemara, if we do not deserve, then the Jews have to do it all by themselves. The question is, and this is a question that somebody once asked me, and this is my answer. Not my question, it's a great question. We say Va'asafta deganecha right after saying that this occurs when we love Hashem b'chol levavchem v'chol nafshechem, with all our hearts and all our souls. Hold on, how is it not the highest level already? What can be higher than loving Him with all our hearts and all our souls? Well, if you pay attention, it doesn't say with all our mights like it does in the first paragraph of the Shema, which says Uvachol me'odecha. So the Breitowitz teaches us in Batilagani that the first paragraph is addressed to the Tzaddik, and the second paragraph is addressed to the regular Jew. Now, the Tzaddik is expected to serve Hashem with more than his heart and his soul, but even his me'od, his extreme, totally selfless, and for Hashem's sake alone, without any trace of himself. But the regular Jew is not expected to reach this level. So how do we know this? Well, the second paragraph begins with Im Shamoa, if you will listen. With a tzaddik, there's no im, there's no if. Of course he's going to do what Hashem wants. Of course he's going to listen. But with a regular Jew, even if he loves Hashem with all his heart and all his soul, the fact that there's an if means it's already a lower state. Not an evil state, which is why Rabbi Ishmael can hold that this is the default state. And that's very inspiring, because the temptation is to believe that unless we're on the very highest of levels, we are failing Hashem. But the Torah teaches otherwise. Every Jew has access to Hashem on his own level. Even us, the Ekev, the heel of the Jewish people, the final generation in Ikvata the Mashiach, the healed of the Mashiach, who are surely below even Rabbi Ishmael's ideal. So how can we understand this? The heel is the lowest part of the body and soul. It is the numbest to sensation and has the least capabilities. I mean, all it can do really is facilitate the simplest of activities, walking. It's generally ignored and taken for granted. It is the end point of our soul, which itself rises up through many, many sublime levels and heights and lofty levels that a human being can reach. There are Tatkana Rakiim, 955 spiritual gates, or heavens, each adding a new dimension of sensation and conscious awareness and vitality to life. When a child is enclosed in a body and born, the channels and the gates are open. And this is why children are so much more alive than adults, as we all remember from our youth, hopefully. As we grow up and we start to lose our bitachon and our emunah and become cynics and sinners, we add layers of filth onto our neshama, and we start to close the gates ourselves, and we become numb in our very souls with timtum halev. Our generation in particular is the numbest of all, the heel, as we said. So what do we do about this? Right, well, note that these Tatkana Rakiim correspond to the 955 Pesukim verses in Sefer Devarim. The Midrash states that on the day of Moshe's Patira, he prayed to Hashem, "One thing I ask of you before my death, that I may enter, and that all of the gates of heavens and the depths be split open, so that all will see that there is none besides you." Rekanati says that he was given permission to write the 955 Pesukim of Devarim in order to accomplish this. So as it says in Kol Bachim, there are 900 Reki'im that we can grasp with our mind and our awareness and our intellect. These heavens even have angels in them. However, the last 55 heavens are beyond our grasp, and no angels, not even the great angel Metatron, who carries our tefillah to Hashem, can enter these lofty, sublime realms. And from there, the tefillot have to travel on their own to get to Hashem. Only Hashem dwells, so to speak, in these exalted, lofty heavens. Indeed, when Elisha ben Nevoyah went into the Pardes, as it says in Chagiga, i.e. these higher states of consciousness, he only got to the 900 where he was able to make the mistake of thinking that Metatron was another god, and that's why he became a heretic. But had he seen the upper 55 levels, he would not have made that mistake. He would have seen no one but Hashem. And that's what Moshe wanted to show everyone. Interestingly, the Ma'aser Rokeach in Ve'et Chanan points out that the 901st pasuk of Devarim is Re'u ata ki ani hu ve'ein Elohim imadi. See now that it is I am He, and there is no God with me. When the Beit HaMikdash was standing, we had all of the heavens open to us. The gates were wide open right above Yerushalayim. Moshe foresaw the Churban, and he knew that the Yeridat HaDorat would begin and the gates would close to us one by one as we fell into Galut and sin. Therefore, he prepared Sefer Devarim as a way to pierce the heavens, and each pasuk acts as a key to unlock yet another gate until we can have them all open once again and have our connection to our Hashem restored and our prayers answered. There's even a segula to learn all of Devarim to have any prayer answered. Now the question is, how does that work? Well, first let's understand a little bit more about the upper 55 gates. They correspond to the world of Atzilut, the highest created realm. This realm is considered so exalted, etzel, with Hashem, meaning that he identifies with it. He considers it utterly one with himself. He considers the world of Atzilut him. He says me about it. This world is me. The other three worlds, Beriah, Yetzirah, and Asiya, where there are angels and even we exist, are considered separate from him, so to speak. He refers to them as you. These correspond to the 900 Reki'im. Interestingly, after giving us the Torah, Yisrael gained access to the 55 worlds of Atzilut. A part of us is identified with Hashem. Truly, our highest crown in our neshama actually reaches Hashem's lowest heel, so to speak. The 55 realms of Atzilut. 55 is 5 plus 50, the 5 books of Chumash and the 50 Sha'arei Bina, which correspond to the Torah She'Ba'al Peh. More on that next week. By receiving, studying, and following the Torah, we gain access all the way up to the highest spiritual realms. Remember, we said that these worlds are beyond comprehension? Well, to us, that means they're considered atik, meaning they're in the part of our soul that is beyond our comprehension and our intellect, the realm of ratzon, of oneg, preciousness and desire, where we experience the preciousness and the good of Hashem as a pure truth, and thus it is the part of our soul that unifies with Him, His dwelling, so to speak, in our soul. Now, we cannot fathom it or grasp it intellectually. All we can do is admit that this world exists, admit the truth of this world, to be modeh. Specifically, this is referred to as the heel of Hashem, so to speak. It's referred to as Hod of Atik, the lowest sephirah of the highest heaven. Now, Hod means to admit that you are right, Hashem. You are precious. You are holy. You are good. You are one. Note that the lower we go down the soul, the more humble and other-oriented it gets, the more selfless we become. Netzach, which is just above Hod, is associated with admitting that we are wrong. A very humble thing to do. Hod is even more humble, doing something even harder than admitting that you're wrong, admitting that the other is right. So what is Moshe doing in Sefer Devarim? Well, famously, he's rebuking us. When we study Devarim, we are learning that we are wrong and Hashem is right. And this cleanses our soul of its filth, its sin. When Moshe speaks heart to heart with us and it's received in our heart, we accept it with love and we are cleansed and the gates open up again. This is how Moshe causes us to rise again through the Tatz Raki'im, unlocking all the gates one by one pasuk at a time. In fact, Rashi, in last week's parasha, on the pasuk Atah Haret Al-Da'at, you have been shown to know that Hashem opened the 7 heavens, which, by the way, correspond to the 955. It's the same system, it's just a different grouping. And when he did that, he showed that there is no angel called God, not even Metatron. Now, the Ramak says in Yitro, as quoted by the Shoeg Aryeh, that this means that in these 55 heavens, there is no judgment at all, only goodness, which, as we said last week, is what Havayahu Ha'elokim means in that pasuk Atah Hareta L'Da'at, which, by the way, is also the pasuk of Ein Od Milvado, which is what Moshe said. So the pasuk means we have been shown to know that everything that Hashem does is for the good and the good alone, if only we can admit it. Havayahu Ha'elokim. If we admit it with every fiber of our soul, we will fulfill Moshe's wish of declaring to the world that Hashem is one. Hashem Echad. And Hashem, in return, will state, Umi ka'amcha Yisrael, goy echad ba'aretz, who is like you, Israel, a unique nation in the world, and fulfill his promise to restore the Beit HaMikdash. We do this through the Shema and through learning Sefer Devarim. Moshe spoke from his heart, and his words will enter our heart. Notably, this is why Rabbi Shimon, who left the world on Lag BaOmer, which is Hod Shebehod, holds that we have a higher state that we can reach than Rabbi Ishmael. This is also why the Rabbi writes in Bati Legani that it's our generation, where we don't even have B'chol Levavcha V'chol Nafshecha. We can only serve Hashem with B'chol Me'adecha. That's all that's left. We only do it for Him. There's no reason to do the mitzvot in this generation. So if we're doing it, it can only be for Him. And thus, our generation, the heel, is screaming the loudest to the nations. And even the smallest details of halacha that we keep, the heels of the halacha, that we are only doing this for Hashem, because He is Echad. Ein Od Milvado. Shabbat Shalom.